The new economy is entrepreneur-centric. We live in a world where challenging the status quo is the norm. Doing things as they have always been done is no longer in vogue. My name is Jordan Bunch. As a filmmaker, lifelong learner, and fellow entrepreneur, I'm always on the hunt to learn from the pioneers at the front lines of innovation. The people I meet are blazing new trails and shifting paradigms on their lifelong adventure of building and growing their businesses. Join me as we explore the journey of today's Mavericks. Founder Amber Wakem doesn't have a claim to fame. You won't find her name on the big screen, featured in books, or known around the world, yet. She's simply a woman who set out to change the way that we look at education. Her once bubbly daughter shut down in kindergarten and was later identified as being dyslexic. Amber shifted her views on how to best support her daughter after she watched her start a business at the age of 8. Quitting her job to launch Startup Kids, she sees entrepreneurship as a way to not only empower students with learning differences, but equip an otherwise unprepared generation with the crucial life skills they will need to succeed beyond the classroom. Tell me the beginnings of this journey, because it's like with any startup, with any entrepreneurial dream, it's always got an interesting story. So I want to hear yours.
Yeah, so I am the proud mother of a now 9-year-old girl. She started kindergarten at the school I worked at, and we had a great start. Sometime around Christmas, she shut down. She completely stopped doing anything. And her teacher looked at me and said, Amber, I haven't been able to get Harper to write in 3 days. I don't know what's wrong with her. She was identified as dyslexic. And so I, as a teacher and a parent, thought, okay, how is the best way I can support you? Yeah. And did all my research and kept seeing this statistic about a lot of entrepreneurs are dyslexic. A lot of successful entrepreneurs have dyslexia. At the time, I was like, this isn't going to help you. You need brain breaks and shortened tests and all of those things that the schools tell us you need. The next 18 months, she just continued to plummet down, and everything was, I can't do it, I'm no good. So I sought out to create Startup under the idea that we would be empowering kids through entrepreneurship and teaching them those skills that they need for life. Like I was saying, 35% of successful entrepreneurs are dyslexic, 60% have ADHD. Those are your kids who don't do well in the classroom. They wiggle and they move, and that setting is unnatural to them, but the way that their brain works, they are just tenacious and driven to be amazing business people. So if we could create something to give them the power and the resources to build their confidence, their self-esteem, to teach them how to communicate, we're making the next generation of innovators and leaders. Yeah. So it's been an incredible journey. While kind of the heart and root and passion of why I created Startup was to empower these kids, like my daughter, we opened it up. Our program's all inclusive. It's not just for kids with ADD and dyslexia. We had kids in the honor program last year. We had kids who were just average everyday students who just wanted to learn something new. Yep. And some of the things that we discovered, it was incredible. We had a little girl last year who, on our end of year survey, when we were talking about, how did you feel your experience with, would you do this again? What are some things that you would like to hear us talk about? She chatted, she's like, I'd like to have somebody come talk about anxiety. Because as a 10-year-old child, she acknowledged that she was suffering from anxiety. Wow. We had a little girl from a very, very privileged, affluent family who came up with this business was a jar. And inside the jar, there were 30 tiny little scrolls. And each scroll was an activity to do with your child. And the premise was, if you bought this jar, you accepted the 30-day challenge to do something with your child every day. And once you started talking to her about why did you come up, or how did you come up with this idea? She just said, well, I just thought about what I want. There was this child who had everything money could buy, but didn't feel loved. And so when you start thinking about the power of just somebody coming in and saying, you matter, what can we do? This isn't just about business. It's not about the things that business can help these kids create that are going to help them in whatever field they go to. It's about us stopping in a moment and saying, we're investing in our future generation of kids. Yeah. We want you to be successful, and you matter. We had over 70 kid businesses created, and I've got about 14 kids who went through the program last year whose kids or their products are featured in stores in Austin right now. They're not just these products that you buy at a market. They're actually like wanting to grow their business and have a revenue based off of it.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
In the current coming school year, which is just year 2, what's different about what we're doing this year?
Oh gosh, there's a ton of things. We, aside from doubling locations again, we'll be at 12.
Wow.
We are doing what's called an LMS, or a learning management system, where we're taking all of our curriculum and we're putting it online. And so originally, when we started getting technology integration into the class, I was like, I don't want kids to have iPads. I want them to have actual computers or laptops so that they can actually learn to start navigating, and we're embedding some of those things that they're not getting in school but you need in the real world. So we have about 30 Chromebooks. Actually, Indeed just donated 27 to us right before the end of the school year, so I'm super excited about it. Awesome. So we'll have a 1-to-1 ratio in our classrooms for the kids, and we're going to put everything online. And so what I really love about that is that not only does it get them starting to actually try to have to figure out and maneuver their way around a computer a little bit more, we're going to be able to put adaptive software into a lot of what we do. So for those kids who are 5 years old and they can't read, we don't have to be as reliant on having a volunteer or a parent help them. You can run the mouse over the area and it'll talk to them, and then they can actually push a different button and then it'll record their response. So it's kind of empowering us to be able to reach more kids and provide a more personalized education. Education.
You know, I've even heard stories of friends where it's like they don't want the parents involved on stuff. I'm like, that's really detrimental, you know. But also, I just love the aspect of how much more able it is to go viral at that level, right? If it's not, you know, if it doesn't rely on you, it doesn't rely on
but you
other
know,
staff members who you hire.
I am a firm believer in the it takes a village approach. Like, I don't know what I personally would do as a parent without my village. That's the same thing for our kids.
Yeah.
To be able to say, hey, I met somebody and they believe in what I'm doing and they're gonna help me. Like, we're bridging the community together. We're building respect from adults to kids, from kids to adults that doesn't exist. But we're also showing these kids career paths and options that they might have not ever otherwise known existed. So there's so much power in saying we are a community, and let's embrace that and let's use that to invest in our future together.
Yep.
My whole premise of the way we've kind of packaged this together is that we'll be like a Boy Scout or a Girl Scout. So if you look at me and say, well, there's not one in Pflugerville, I'd really love to have this in Pflugerville. I say, perfect, Jordan. I've got this whole entire kit with the curriculum, the teacher training guides, the presentation, all the resources that you need. Here you go.
Yeah.
Let me know how I can support you.
Yeah.
And so we're able to kind of take that approach and spread farther without it being just us implementing it.
Right. So I'm curious how this has played out in your family life. I'm always curious about that with entrepreneurs. So you started this just a year ago. What's this looked like in your professional and your family life? How has this changed dynamics and what's going on in your family?
That's actually a pretty interesting question. I will say I am super lucky. My family's been super supportive of me. I think I mentioned it in the car when I said, hey, honey, I can't do this. I can't be a teacher or be working at the school and then start this business, because if I don't do this, somebody else will, and we'll lose all of our why we're doing this. So we basically said, okay, well, we are a two income family. We need the money, but let's give it a year. So I pulled my retirement, and we invested some of it to actually start the nonprofit, and then sustain our living expenses. We sold our house, we downsized tremendously, and at points when it gets really like, oh my gosh, it has actually made us closer together, because I'm personally and professionally just overcome with joy and satisfaction, and he's getting to witness that and believes in what we're doing. I mean, what we're doing isn't something that is going to be an impact that you see right away. This impact is one that we're just like the ripple in the water. You're just creating that, and I mean, it's going to take a while to spread that, and we're seeing that as we're going.
How have they done with like the downsizing portion of this? Because you guys moved from a home into a trailer. Like, how is that part?
So last year when we moved, so Kurt, my spouse, owns an RV rental and sales unit. So he was like, hey, we got this fifth wheel we can move into, and it would save us if we could make it 1 year. We'll save X amount of dollars, and this will, help us. And so we said, okay, let's do it. So we packed up everything, we put it in storage, and all in all, it's been not as terrible as you'd think, because we just it's a bed to sleep in. When you've got a nice bed, a mattress at the end of the day, you're good. You don't need a lot. As we kind of progress a little bit more, and it's been getting close to a year, it's like, okay, I'd love to have a kitchen again, and all that stuff. But he said it last night when we were at dinner. He was like, we don't need a lot. You don't need a lot. I mean, we've got stuff in storage that I probably don't even realize that we have anymore. You learn what's valuable to you and to your family, and what you really need to survive, and that's been, I think, an amazing lesson to even teach my daughter, because I was worried about that at first. Like, what is she going to think about this? How is this going to be perceived? And it's like, she sees, if you believe in something, you go all in. The sacrifices that are there, and just the time, things don't happen overnight. It takes a little bit, and you have to believe in what you're doing to be able to do that. So I feel like this isn't a negative thing we're teaching her. If anything, we're teaching her what it's like to actually believe in something. And
she does.
She does. She absolutely does.
Because she sacrificed as well in the same way, having her own space and all that, to coming down to living in a trailer with mom and dad, and
and the dog,
and the dog, a big dog,
Yes, it's been crazy. And I mean, but I think for her too, if you think about it, she was that kid who was depressed and negative and didn't like herself, and now she does. And so I mean, you feel that. You feel when your life shifts. Even I think as a 9-year-old child, she can understand the power of what she's done, and seeing the importance of it, knowing like, okay, I instead of, what was it? We were working on her spelling list in the car, and she used to be like, it's too hard, I can't do it, and that self-defeat. And about a month ago, it transitioned to this, you know what, Mom? I haven't practiced enough on this. Can I work on it a little bit, and we try this later? And so she was acknowledging she couldn't do it. Instead of accepting that as like, I'm not good enough or being defeated, she said, I know I need to do a little bit more, and then let's come back and do this. And since that mindset shift has transpired, she has been like indestructible. I mean, like, oh my gosh, she's become fearless and so much more capable to just do things personally, academically. It's very rewarding.
That's awesome.
So the power of entrepreneurship. We had to take her out of gymnastics. She was a competitive gymnast and placed 7th in the state last year.
Cool.
Yeah,
Congrats.
and it was huge. And so when we had to pull her from gymnastics in April, because we just hadn't had the funds coming in yet to pay me, I was like torn inside. Was torn. And she looked at me and she said, "It's okay, Mommy. This is bigger than me." And that was one of the most like powerful things I think I've ever heard, because she saw that, like, she was being selfless for the sake of all of the other kids that she could potentially ever get to impact. So
it's incredible.
I know, I tell her all the time, Harp, you have no idea how many kids you touch each day with your story and what we're doing. Like, so
I love that. It's amazing the stories that I'm hearing about, the level of maturity, the level of responsibility from kids whenever we unleash them and empower them to be who they're meant to be. to be who they're meant to be. How do you see this playing itself out in families where mom and dad are having to work 2 jobs? You know, they're just too busy to be involved as they would hope and dream to be in their kids' lives on the daily basis. How does this work itself out in those families?
We've actually had a couple that we've dealt with already. The little boy who was 15 last year in our program, I would actually pick him up and I would take him home. And for the students who come from areas where maybe their parents don't have money to give them their initial deposit to start their business, they take a loan from us and we give them 30-day interest-free loan after the market. So after their first sale, if they don't pay it back in 30 days, they get this small little percentage that's tacked on. But we want to afford everybody the same opportunities to do that. And I don't know if we've mentioned it already, that the bulk of our program is free. Like, we don't charge, which is why we don't have money. But I really think, you know, going back to the kind of conversations we were having about the injustice our school systems are doing and the fact that these kids aren't getting the skills, I want this to become a segue and a bridge between what the schools are doing and what we're doing. We're providing a type of education that's just as meaningful and impactful. And I want anybody to be able to participate no matter what. We ask if families can make donations, to consider making donations to help us cover programming costs. I think 80% of our students last year were there and never paid a dime.
Wow.
So crazy. We had a mom who would take the bus. She was on disability and didn't have a job. She would take the bus an hour each way and walk half a mile with her daughter to get her to the class because she's like, I didn't learn and I screwed my life up. If I could do that for my daughter, I want to teach her. And those are the people I want to reach more and more and more and more, kind of at the heart of where I want to go with this organization. So.
In the early days of a startup, it's just so critical that the product be fantastic.
Exactly, and I think that's where I've confused a lot of people because I didn't really heavily seek out funding to make this happen. I've just kind of trenched along and we've worked with what we've had, and all the while I've been quietly building all of these little intricate pieces to package this together. And when we're there, we've not only got proof of concept and all the data that support it, but we've got a completed project that can handle mass scale, quick growth. And that's what I want. I want us to be able to reach more kids and to get into those neighborhoods and work with kids who would never otherwise know that was an option. Quality is a big piece of what we do, and that's very important to me, is that what we do has integrity and that it has meaningful, powerful potential to make a difference.
What sort of help do you have on that front of helping you to both keep your DNA but also to continue to improve? I
have a fantastic board of people. I like to say, a broken record, people said I was crazy when I was drafting this board because I'm like, oh, I need a production guy, I need an education guy, I need all of these a nonprofit guy. And they're like, no, a board should have powerful people on it. It should have CFOs and CEOs and all of these people. And I wanted balance. I wanted every single one of the voices within our program to be represented. So we have a parent on our board. I have a guy who runs a production company, and he would tell me, like, Amber, I don't know why you want me on your board, but sure. And sure enough, when we start talking about events, his voice pops in, and he is that expert, and he provides us with the knowledge to be able to be successful.
Right.
Having somebody from the educational world coming and saying, no, big business guy, you don't understand, that's not how it works in a practical classroom setting, has also been a great way to make sure that we're really keeping in mind all of the areas that we touch. I gave up my president spot this year to, as of actually next month, I'll have an actual president of our organization and I'll be the executive director. And somebody told me, you're crazy to let that power go. But from my position is one, I'm an educator, and two, I know my strengths and my weaknesses. And if I'm going to sit here and I'm going to feel like I need to exert my power over something, I am going to take the legs out from underneath this program because I know what I know.
Yeah.
And kind of letting that go and accepting that and saying, hey, help me make this better. We're putting ourselves in a better position to actually embrace that change.